The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Don't you hate it when you get selected for a jury only to learn the defendant is innocent? Because you're the perpetrator. We've all been there, and Amber and Scott discuss it after watching Juror number 2. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Civic duty, am I right?
You are indeed. This episode, we are talking about Juror number 2. It follows family man Justin Kemp, who, while serving on a juror in a high-profile murder trial, finds himself struggling with a serious moral dilemma, one he could use to sway the jury verdict and potentially convict or free the accused killer. Now, that's kind of vague, but we could really cut down to the nitty-gritty here by saying he did it.
Well, I mean, the truth is they don't know that he did it.
So he finds himself on a jury, and this guy is being accused of this crime, which he later puts together that he accidentally committed. It's a murder trial, and he realizes while driving home one night in a very, very hard rainstorm, he accidentally hit a lady, threw her over the edge, and this guy's been accused of killing her. And
Allegedly.
He thought he had hit a deer because he saw no evidence of anything, and he thought the deer ran off into the woods. So, yes, he finds himself on the jury realizing he's actually the person who committed the crime.
Maybe.
Yeah, he did.
Well, no, I think that's the whole thing is that.
He did.
Well, when the guy said he ID'd the guy at a certain time.
When the guy said he ID'd the guy.
Yeah, when the guy in the house ID'd the killer,
No.
that's when he knew that's when he knew that part was false, because he knew he was the person who got ID'd. But
okay, that's really confusing.
yeah, okay, that's fine. Anyway, so since that was really the big crux of the prosecution's case, that he got ID'd at that, and he knew it was him, he knew that guy.
The accused, the defendant.
Well, he knew that he was.
He knew.
Okay.
There are way too many he's here.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I'm not following you. So let's just get down to the nitty-gritty
The defendant, he knew the defendant didn't do it for multiple reasons, not the least of which being
Justin knew the defendant didn't do it.
Are we good now? Can we do this?
Well, I'm confused, and I saw the movie, and we can just kind of get into the story here, right?
So he knew that the defendant didn't do it because he saw him circle back around and go the other direction. So clearly, he knows that that guy didn't do it. There is circumstantial evidence which now leads him to believe that he did it. But the truth is he doesn't even know for sure that he did it.
He did it.
But there is a lot of circumstantial evidence.
The evidence is him knowing that he hit something on that road on that time, couldn't find what it was, thought it was a deer.
Like I said, it's heavy circumstantial evidence, but it is still circumstantial evidence. Like that's an important thing. I was not thrilled with some of the legal advice that Kiefer Sutherland was giving. I truly believe even if he steps forward and says, no, that guy didn't ID him because he ID'd me, I still don't know that they can necessarily convict, because you have to remember, heavy rainstorm. No one did a blood alcohol test on him, which would have been fine if he had. The only guy we're talking about right now.
Okay, well, but there was no reason to do a blood alcohol test.
Correct.
On him. He went home. He
Correct.
was nowhere in the vicinity
so
of the crime.
They don't have alcohol as a motive. They don't have an actual motive as a motive. It was bad weather, and literally no one knows for sure that he did it, including him.
Okay, I can't follow you with all the he's because I don't know who you're talking about. But the defendant, who was James Michael Scythe, was seen at the bar having an argument with his girlfriend, throwing a glass, arguing with her in the parking lot, and he supposedly went home. But let's just go ahead and get into what we do here, which is, what would you do if you were on a trial, if you were in the jury, and you came to realize that you might actually be the perpetrator of the crime of which you are faced with determining someone else's innocence or guilt?
Well,
it's a really interesting premise.
Yeah, I think Again, I think Kiefer Sutherland's character's legal advice was bad.
So Kiefer was
An AA lawyer or a lawyer.
he
who
was
also went in
Justin's
AA.
basically Justin's sponsor because Justin had been 4 years sober, and Kiefer Sutherland was Justin's sponsor and also a lawyer. So when Justin realized that he is likely the person who killed this woman, Kendall, he confers with Kiefer Sutherland's character, who basically says, yeah, you're screwed. Doesn't matter. Time's passed. You didn't come forward. You were coming from a bar. Doesn't matter that you didn't drink because you have a history as being an alcoholic. And yeah, you can't tell anyone.
That is seriously some of the worst legal advice I've ever heard in my life, because
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is what you would do is you would get a second opinion.
I personally wouldn't need the second opinion. If I'm that person, I'm probably coming forward and saying, I know that guy couldn't have ID'd the defendant because I was the person who was there.
Yeah, so there was an eyewitness, an older man who lived in a trailer far away in the woods, who was obviously led by the police. The police came and they showed this man a picture saying, is this the guy that you saw out on the street?
That is some shitty police work.
Yeah, and the guy wanted to seem useful, wanted to seem helpful, of which he's admitted on his own. And he said, oh, yeah, that's who I saw. And then when they saw that when he was in the court as a witness, they said, do you see the man? He was like, oh, yeah, there he is. So obviously not a credible witness, not at all accurate or anything that should have been admissible because he was clearly led. So when that is the most compelling piece of evidence in a case, that's definitely messed up.
Yeah, and I mean, the defending attorney was an idiot for not harping on the fact that he only saw one picture. That's not a lineup. There's a reason that they do lineups, to make someone pick somebody else out of a lineup.
Okay.
To avoid this precise thing. If there's 6 people in front of you and you pick that one, that has some weight. If there's one person in front of you and you pick that one, that doesn't hold any weight.
Okay, yeah, and we certainly didn't hear about any sort of lineup. We just heard after the fact, once the jury was already in deliberation and the DA started to realize that maybe she had made a mistake, then she goes and finds this very important bit of information out, that this witness was basically led by the police when he was just shown this photo of James, who is the defendant standing trial.
Yeah, so if this is real life, for one, the assistant DA, who became the DA before it was said and done, she would have truly realized that honestly, the police fucked up, and they blew their witness by doing this. And I'm not even sure that she brings that case to trial unless she knew that her colleague was a blubbering idiot.
I mean, it was in trial. The trial took place and the jury was in deliberation. So at that point, the cement is pretty much set at that point. But she starts to listen to little bits of information that start coming up that does make her question what ultimately happened, which is good. Like, she's not digging in her feet just saying, I'm right. She does look into some of these theories that a juror dug up and realized that it could have been a hit and run, opposed to Kendall just being bludgeoned and beaten and thrown over the side of the road into a river, little ditch river area.
I mean, a competent DA isn't going to have to dig for theories in the middle of a trial, especially not during jury deliberations. They're going to see the double clavicle break and realize there's no freaking chance that happened from a fall.
Well, they explained it in the fact that the medical examiner had 3 autopsies that day and was likely overworked and didn't really pay any attention to this because they went into this with already a theory of what happened, in that this guy bludgeoned her and then threw her over the side of the road. So they weren't looking for anything out of the ordinary, and that seems to happen a lot in movies and TV.
It does. Luckily, we do the IRL part, which is not movies and TV. We look at what we would do if this was in real life. So
So
Like,
what I would do,
Again, in real life, if I'm the DA, I'm not bringing this case to trial, at least not with what she had. There's no way, because it seems like a loser. As much as they made it seem like this was a winning case, if there's a competent defense attorney, that's a loser.
well, the defendant James had a public attorney, so a public defender rather.
Yes.
So
Not, I mean, competent, yes. Cares much.
overworked,
Not really.
overworked, and certainly too many cases to really go delving deep into any case at all. Pretty much would be the case with most public defenders.
Yeah, but
who-
even a public defender, when they get handed something like a murder trial, it gets focus. It gets a lot of focus. Maybe not as much as the prosecutor would do, but it still gets enough that it should be seen fairly clearly. I mean, he seemed very certain that his client didn't do it. So he obviously did look enough into this to believe that that was the case. But like the fact that all of these theories were thrown out in jury deliberation just wouldn't happen in real life.
Well, they were thrown out in jury deliberation because our main character, Justin, doesn't want the defendant to go to jail because he believes he is the one who committed the crime. So he's trying to right a wrong by making sure that someone doesn't get punished for what he actually did, even though it was vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah, but say he gets, like, if it goes to trial, like, he's looking at the worst third-degree involuntary manslaughter, like, a year, maybe.
Well, I
Maybe
think
not
there is
even
something
that.
to be said for the fact that he did have a history as an alcoholic. He was leaving that night coming from a bar, even though he ordered a drink and didn't drink it. And we believe that to be the truth. So there would certainly be a lot of things that he would have to explain, and the jury may or may not believe. But at the end of the day, Justin was trying to make sure that the defendant didn't get put away. So that's why all those decisions came, or all of those issues came up in deliberations, because that was the first time the jury really had an opportunity to dig into the issues. And when Justin realized everyone else was just automatically going to say, hey, this guy's guilty, I got to get home to my kids, he didn't want to have that be the outcome for someone that he knew was unjustly accused.
Yeah, that jury room was rather unbelievable.
Well, you know what? But was it? It was actually kind of disturbing, and I think probably representative of a lot of jury rooms of people who don't want to be there, people who are either not getting paid or have childcare issues and are greatly inconvenienced. And it's something that I've always thought. So I've been laid off a couple times in my life, and for myself, I always thought it would be a really good idea to have unemployed people serve as jurors. Like, we have time on our hands if we're not working, we're looking for a job. Sure, we're going to interviews and trying to find a job, but I think that is a lesser hurdle for some folks if that's your situation, because the current system we have of jury selection and having to perform jury duty, it does frequently create an environment where you have 12 people who do not want to be there. And it makes you a little frightened to know that, heaven forbid, if you were on the side of needing those 12 people to pay attention to the facts, and if your life was on the line, that a lot of folks just don't want to be there and they have other concerns and they want to get on with their lives.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of interesting. I know how much you love sports, but there was a very interesting thing. Teams in the NFL put out injury reports and reasons why people maybe weren't at practice. And the Dallas Cowboys kicker, Brandon Aubrey, this last week on the report, it said, I don't remember, it's not NFI, but not football related, jury duty. He couldn't be at practice because he had jury duty, which normally, if you're an NFL player, they'll just push your jury duty off to, like, when you're not playing or something. But he was like, you know what? No, I want to do my civic duty. So he didn't actually try to get out of it. So he was on the jury for like a couple of days and he was done. But yeah, I mean, you're right. A lot of people are going to be like, I need to get the hell out of here.
And unfortunately, we live, at least here in the United States, where there is all kinds of erratic, varying different policies regarding jury duty pay at different jobs. A lot of them don't pay you at all. Some of them will pay you for the first day. Some of them have if you work for a really good company, you might have unlimited jury duty. But the likely is that most Americans, if you have to serve jury duty, you're probably not getting paid for at least one day, if not several days or several weeks, or heaven forbid, several months. And that is just not sustainable.
I don't think I've ever worked for a company that didn't pay out jury duty. Like you just
The
you
standard,
give, you
the
give
standard is 3 days. A lot of companies will offer 3 days, not all of them, but
I don't think I've ever worked for a company that wasn't unlimited.
I've never worked for a company.
Wow. Yeah, because that's
I think
the thing. It's
best
like
I've
you
done
can't
is 3
you
days.
can't help it if you're put on a jury.
No,
So
you can't, but a lot of companies are cheap and they don't want to pay you if you're not doing the work. So what would I do if I was in the juror number 2, who was Justin, who we think committed the crime? If I was in his shoes, boy, that would be really hard.
You think?
Because yes, he did it. He didn't do it on purpose, but he did. You know, that's a hard.
I do not want you on my jury if ever I'm on the stand.
He did it. Anyway, I would like to think that I would step forward and turn myself in. I think I would. I also can't imagine the fear that comes from that. But I would like to think I would do the right thing. If I was the district attorney prosecuting that case, I absolutely would be someone who was open to new information. So many, whether it be politicians or government officials, they just dig in their feet saying, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. And they're not willing to listen to new information or opposing views. So I definitely would like to think that I would be open to, oh my gosh, did we get this wrong? We've got to look into this and figure out the real story here.
Okay, so for me, if I'm Justin in this case, I'm going to come forward because the truth of the matter is if you don't even know for sure that this was you, like literally the only way you might have found out that this was you was because you happened to get picked for a jury that happened to be the crime.
Yeah, he had no idea.
Yeah, so if you truly don't know and everything is circumstantial at best, I'm going to come forward because I know that the legal system, I will be fine in that situation. Now, if I know I did something and I do feel like there's maybe some way of proving this and I'm going to be kind of screwed otherwise, I'm not coming forward. Now, I'm not going to vote guilty. I'll hang that jury. If I have to hang it, I'll hang it.
Well, the point is that the lawyer / sponsor advised Justin that if there's a hung jury, they'll just try.
Well, yeah, he's like, there must be a verdict. Well, guess what? If the verdict is not guilty, they're going to come looking anyway. Like that guy's legal advice was effing terrible. You know what? It was worth what Justin paid for it. $1.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.